Hey there, I'm Nell Stokes, and this is my YouTube channel, Nell Stokes 80 and Up. I didn't want Women's History Month 2024 to end without sharing some information about one of my she-roes. Henrietta Lacks was an African American woman whose cancer cells are the source of the HeLa cell line, the first immortalized human cell line and one of the most important cell lines in medical research. In 1951, a young mother of five named Henrietta Lacks visited the Johns Hopkins Hospital complaining of vaginal bleeding. Upon examination, renowned gynecologist Dr. Howard Jones discovered a large malignant tumor on her cervix. At the time, the Johns Hopkins Hospital was one of the only hospitals to treat poor African Americans. As the medical records show, Mrs. Lacks began undergoing radium treatment for her cervical cancer. This was the best medical treatment available at the time for this terrible disease. A sample of her cancer cells retrieved during the biopsy was sent to Dr. George Gee's nearby tissue lab. For years, Dr. Gee, a permanent cancer and virus researcher, had been collecting cells from all patients who came to the Johns Hopkins Hospital with cervical cancer, but each sample quickly died in Dr. Gee's lab. What he would soon discover was that Mrs. Lacks's cells were unlike any other he had ever seen. Where other cells would die, Mrs. Lacks's cells doubled every 20 to 24 hours. Today, these incredible cells, nicknamed HeLa cells, from the first two letters of her first and last name, are used to study the effects of toxins, drugs, hormones, and viruses on the growth of cancer cells without experimenting with humans. They have been used to test the effects of radiation and poison, to study the human genome, to learn more about how viruses work, and played a crucial role in development of the polio vaccine. Nobody asked Henrietta Lacks for consent to use her cells in research in 1951. And shockingly, consent is not always required in the United States even today. In 2013, the Lacks family gained some control over how Lacks's DNA can be used. She will also be acknowledged in future scientific papers that discusses research using cells. The Henrietta Lacks Foundation now exists. This foundation supports her relatives and others who have contributed to science without their consent. HeLa cells have made many medical advances possible. However, their use raises many important ethical questions. Neither Lacks nor her family ever gave their permission for her cells to be taken. An article in Ebony magazine in 1976 featured a quote from her husband. He said, "All I remember is that she had a disease, and right after she died, they called me to the office wanting to get my permission to take a sample of some kind. I decided not to let them. At the time, it was standard to take tumor cells for research without consent. But eventually, Henrietta Lacks' family understandably became upset. There was a lot of medical research happening with HeLa cells. In fact, HeLa cells were part of a multi-million-dollar industry. And for decades, her family wasn't compensated or recognized for any of it. Without Henrietta Lacks' cell, the pace of biomedical research would have been much slower. Many of the treatments people take for granted still might not have been developed. As a result, HeLa cells have saved countless lives. I believe this makes her the most important human being who ever lived. Although Mrs. Lacks passed away on October 4, 1951, at the age of 31, her cells continue to impact the world. She's called the Mother of Medicine. Thank you for listening to my YouTube channel, Nell Stokes 80 and Up. Please subscribe and set your notification. Remember, yesterday is history. Tomorrow, it's a mystery. Today's a gift. That's why we call it the present. Good day.